Hi, welcome to Whiteboard Tutorials from SDG Strategy. These tutorials are intended to make you excellent at developing sound strategies. My name is Russ McGuire. I'm the founder and chief strategist for SDG Strategy, and today we're going to be looking at the Purpose Pyramid. The Purpose Pyramid is a framework that helps you develop sound strategies. You've probably never heard of the Purpose Pyramid before, because we've developed it ourselves. I actually started working on it about 20 years ago when I was the chief strategist for TeleChoice, the strategic catalyst for the telecom industry. And at that time, we called it the messaging pyramid. We primarily used it for communicating an organization's kind of top-level messages or communicating their strategy. But over the past 20 years, what I've learned is that this is a powerful tool for developing strategies, not just communicating them. And so I've tweaked it and I've refined it and I've worked with a variety of different organizations on a variety of different types of strategies to be able to refine this into a tool that's powerful for developing strategies, and I want to share it with you today. You may have heard me say at some point in time that my definition of a strategy is a framework that makes hard decisions easier. And so what you see with the Purpose Pyramid is a framework. It's a multi-level framework. At the top is the highest level. It's the purpose. And as you work down at the bottom, you get to very specific plans for how you're going to accomplish that purpose. So this Purpose Pyramid is a tool. It's a framework. It's a way in which you can capture what's true about your organization and what has to be true about your organization if you're going to accomplish your organization's purpose. That is, to me, a strategy. So as hard decisions come along, if you know why you exist, if you understand what's core about that, if you understand the things that you're working on that have to be accomplished, then you can make those decisions appropriately and with the right framework, the right thought process to ensure that those decisions are aligned with where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. So let me flesh this out a little bit more for you. As I mentioned, there are 3 levels, but even the pyramid itself resides within an environment. On another tutorial, we talked about the situation assessment and identifying the external environment and the internal environment. So your strategy is being operated within this environment, this external and internal environment. And so I've got a dotted line here to kind of represent the breakdown between that external and internal environment. And so you may remember that when we talked about the external and internal environment, the situation assessment, we used the acronym SWOT. It's a common tool used in business planning, has been for quite a while: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so the purpose, this top level, I'll go ahead and label it as purpose, primarily exists within the external environment. What's happening outside of the company, the customers that you're trying to serve, the competitors that are your rivals, the environmental changes that are happening. And so we've got threats and opportunities. And then the way in which you're going to make that purpose happen, what your strategy is, what you're going to focus on, and the plans that you're going to put in place, that is much more tightly tied to the internal environment. So what are your weaknesses or challenges? And what are your strengths? And all of this external environment, we call the panorama. You'll see we use a lot of P's when we're working with the Purpose Pyramid. So within this environment, we've got our strategy. And at the top of the strategy is our purpose. You might call it your mission. You might call it your vision. You might call it your strategic intent. But it effectively is, where are you going? Where are you heading? What is true north? What are you out to accomplish? Why do you even exist? What is your purpose? The second level are what we call pillars. And we have 3 of them in the Purpose Pyramid. 3 is a pretty special number. 3 is a very solid number. It provides a sound foundation for accomplishing that purpose. You might think about a stool. You know, a three-legged stool is a very solid, stable, robust, something that you can really put your weight on and know that it's going to hold up. A two-legged stool is going to fall over. And a four-legged stool might have a little bit of wobble in it, but a three-legged stool is very stable and solid and dependable. Underneath the three pillars are what we call the plans. And so for each of the three pillars, we like to identify three very specific plans. So let me go again from the top. Your purpose is why you exist. The pillars are the core elements that support that purpose. They're pillars, they're solid and strong. And the way that I like to think about the pillars is what are the three things that have to be true if you're going to accomplish your purpose. And you know that you've got the right list of pillars if you believe that by having each of these true, if you get to the point where each of these three pillars is true, then your likelihood of accomplishing that purpose is very high. And if you fail to make any one of the pillars true, then your purpose is going to fail. That's how you know that you've got the right pillars. And then underneath the pillars are the plans. These are the very specific things that you need to work on to establish and strengthen these pillars so that they can be relied upon. So the plans might be strategic initiatives. They might be projects, depending on the size of your organization and the nature, the scope, the amount of activity that you have going on. These identify really what are the highest priority activities within the organization, and they've got to be aligned with this strategy. Too often we have organizations that have high priority activities going on that have nothing to do with the strategy, and that is a real issue. So this gives you a high-level view of what the purpose pyramid looks like and how it's structured and what goes into it and why we think that it's a solid framework for developing sound strategies. But I think it's most helpful if we use an example, if we fill this out, and if I help you see the way in which you would approach this and what it looks like when you're all done. So as we've done before, what I'm going to use is my own company, SDG Strategy, as the example for how we approach this. I'll choose blue for my color to fill this out. But the purpose is we could spend a lot of time just on defining what a good purpose is. A good purpose is clear and coherent. It's something that people can remember. It's something that provides direction. It's something that's inspirational, that makes people say, hey, I want to do that. I want to get up and go to work and be a part of that. There's a lot of mission statements are super long. They might be 20 or 30 words long, and no one can remember them. And some kind of mission statements or purpose statements are very short, but they're very generic. To create shareholder wealth, or to satisfy customers and make them happy. Those are purpose statements and mission statements that just don't have any tie to the reality of what this organization is and why it exists. And so what we would propose is that you try to really focus this down. Now there's an approach, there's an organization called the Mulago Foundation that has come up with an approach that we really like. Their objective is to get to a purpose statement, any organization that they're working with, to have a purpose statement that is 8 words long or less and clearly spells out what the organization is all about, why it exists. And the approach that they take is they start with a verb, and then the second one is kind of who's the object, who are they, what's the target audience that they're trying to help. And then the third part is what's the outcome, what's the positive outcome that comes from that. And so when we talk about SDG Strategy's purpose, it kind of fits that model. So if I replace just the word purpose with what our purpose actually is, which is help leaders develop sound strategies. The verb is help. We exist to help others. Specifically, we're helping leaders, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, church leaders, whoever it is that needs help in developing sound strategies. And what we help them do, the outcome is that they're developing sound strategies. They're developing strategies that are successful in creating value within their organizations. So that's our purpose. Now the pillars, how do you identify what your pillars are? How do you do that? Where do you find those? Well, in another one of our whiteboard tutorials, we talked about the business model canvas. And the business model canvas is actually a pretty good place to find your pillars, or at least the starting point, some ideas for the pillars. So if I just remind you a little bit about the purpose pyramid, it's got 9 boxes. And the center box is the value proposition. The right-hand box is the target customers. The 2 boxes in between are your channels and your customer relationship. The two boxes right behind your value proposition are key activities and key resources. And behind that are key partners. And underneath are your revenues and your expenses. So this gives a picture for the entire organization in just one simple diagram. Well, to me, your purpose is really captured very strongly here in your value proposition. The value that you are providing to your target customers should be very well aligned with your purpose. They may not be the exact same words. In our case, they're pretty similar words, but there should be a very strong alignment. And so when you think about the pillars, the things that are going to help you make that purpose become a reality, I think a great place to look is in these boxes that immediately surround that value proposition. So again, this is key activities, key resources, channels, and customer relationship. So are there aspects in which you are operating that are foundational and somewhat unique and value creating that are going to help you accomplish that value proposition? I'm guessing that there are. So I'm not going to go through and spell all this out for you again on SDG Strategy as I did in the other tutorial. But as I look at what the pillars are that we need to have in place if we're going to accomplish this purpose of helping leaders develop sound strategies, then what I would identify is, one thing we need to do is we need to be able to work one-on-one or, in a very customized, unique way with each of our clients. And so I call that deliver custom advisory services. So there's a way that we're going to engage with our customers, with our clients, in a way that is unique to them and what their needs are. And we're going to help them. That's one aspect of how we help leaders develop sound strategies. A second way that we're going to help leaders develop sound strategies is by developing tools to accelerate the strategic decision making. And so, this is one of the tools, the purpose pyramid. But there are also going to be online tools that we develop that are going to help organizations and leadership teams pull together and do the process of strategic decision making and strategy development. So the middle one I've got here, develop tools to accelerate strategic decision making. And by the way, my handwriting isn't the best, but don't worry. when I post this video, I'm going to post it on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, go find it on clearpurpose.media. There, what I've got is I've got the video embedded. You look under the tutorials tab, you should find this tutorial there. And underneath that video are computer generated versions with typed in, not my hand scrawled versions of the diagrams that I show you here. So the second pillar is develop tools to accelerate strategic decision making. And then the third kind of critical pillar in my model for how I'm going to help leaders develop sound strategies is, as I mentioned, clearpurpose.media. It's making freely available publishing content that helps leaders do it themselves or understand the counsel that I'm providing or follow along as they're using the tools that we're making available. And so we refer to that, so it's share tools and tales to encourage strategy development. So those are my three pillars. If all I do is deliver custom advisory services, I can probably help a lot of people, but it'll be somewhat one-off. It won't be within the structure of the framework, the broad framework of ways in which organizations can start to pull together and develop sound strategies across their organization. I think that I can provide a lot of value there, but I don't think that I'm going to help leaders to, in a consistent manner, develop sound strategies. If I develop tools to accelerate strategic decision making, then that's great. Some people will be able to figure out how to use them, but a lot of people are going to need a little bit of help in getting started. And then similarly, if all that I do is publish content, then some people will be able to figure it out, but a lot of people will be left scratching their heads and saying, I don't know where to go from here. I need someone to show me that next step. And I need tools to be able to do these things effectively. So again, I think that this layer, these pillars, if I do all three of these and I do them well, then I believe that I can accomplish that top level purpose. So what are the plans that go underneath each of these? Well, one thing that I'm really focused on at this point in kind of building out my business, there are a lot of things that I need to put in place. And so one thing is I need to become really good at providing virtual consultations. If I'm going to help lots of organizations all across the country and perhaps even beyond the US, then I need to be able to do that without having to travel to where all of the clients are. And so virtual consultations. That's something that I already do, but I need to continue to strengthen that and make that a stronger element of what I'm offering. The second thing is virtual and in-person strategy labs. A strategy lab is a process that I've put in place. You may have heard me describe in other places that my model is really a catalyst model. I'm not a consultant that wants to do all of the work and bring in an army of people to do the work. I want to be the catalyst that helps you develop this strategy that taps into the knowledge that you already have, the skills that you already have. You've got smart people, you are smart. You've got smart people on your teams, and to be able to help accelerate the process of them developing strategies. And so the strategy lab is a process. 2 days is kind of a typical length. Some are shorter, some are longer. But it's a process that I take people through to develop the strategies that are really their focus at this moment in time. And historically, I've done that in an in-person setting, and that's great. That's worked really well. But I see tremendous opportunity, especially with the recent COVID-19 adoption of work at home and remote work technologies that people are becoming very comfortable with. I think that I can build out a capability set to be able to do that in a virtual fashion. Again, to be able to help more and more people as we're moving forward. And then the third kind of element of this are longer term relationships. Often as I work with organizations, then I might help them for a day, I might help them for an hour, I might help them through a specific strategy. And at the end of that, they say, this is great. And my goal is that they be able to continue on effectively without me helping them the next time. But they're most comfortable if I'm still there for them, not to lead them through that next process, but as a sounding board, as an advisor, as a mentor. And so the third element here is retained advisory relationships. And with my clients, this is often the path we go down. So a virtual consultation might be for an hour, might be for a couple of hours, might be for half a day of helping them through. And then we get to a point where there's need for really a little bit more help. There's a very specific strategy to be developed or a decision to be made, and then I can help them through it with a strategy lab process. And then on the backside of that, then there's a desire to have an ongoing relationship that's less intense, less focused on a specific activity, but more where I can continue to help those leaders grow in their ability to develop sound strategies. Well, as we move over to the tools part, these tools also are going to become critical elements, not just for when I'm working directly with my clients, but as they have learned and they're going on and they're continuing the process without me, for them to have tools to make that happen as efficiently and quickly and effectively as possible. And so, so one of those is the purpose pyramid, as I've already mentioned, and especially to turn that into an online tool to help organizations, whatever strategy they're working on, to be able to easily create that purpose pyramid for that strategy. The second, I've also mentioned but it's putting together the online tools to make this virtual strategy lab actually happen, and perhaps happen better than it ever has in person. So again, even if I'm going out and doing an in-person strategy lab, to have the tools so that the team can be interacting and engaging as we go through this multi-day process. And then the third is what I refer to as online accelerators. And these are really just online tools that help accelerate perhaps tools and processes that we haven't developed, but that are commonly used as we're working with our clients, and just make it easy to accelerate the process of using those tools. So these are the specific plans. This is my work list. Now I need to make these things better. I already do most of these to some extent, but to make them better and stronger, and especially to leverage these tools and online tools that with my software development background and capabilities, I can develop and make available. And then the third set of plans has to do with this freely available content. And so, so here we've got, tales, so strategy stories, where I will tell stories of other people who I've helped, or maybe people that I haven't helped, but they've done a good job of developing strategies, or maybe strategy efforts that didn't go so great. Maybe I was a part of it, maybe I wasn't. But tell the tales that help build that deep understanding, that cultural understanding of what it means to do strategy development, to develop sound strategies. The second is really around the tools, and so it's these whiteboard tutorials. This is one of them, but continue to provide tutorials to help people to use those tools. And then the last piece is really what I'm calling book glances. And so these book glances aren't really full reviews. They aren't what you'd read in the New York Times as a book review, but they really point you to books and help you understand when is the right time to pull that book off the shelf, and how should you use what it teaches you. So how do you apply what those books tell you as you're doing strategy development? So I'll put when and how. So there, very quickly, is an introduction to the purpose pyramid and an example of how to populate it and what it looks like. So again, to kind of review what we've talked about, at the top is a very high-level view of why do we exist? Why does our organization exist, or this strategy? What are we hoping to accomplish with it? What are the core pillars? What are the fundamental truths that hold that purpose up? And if we can make all those truths truly be true, then we can have a high level of confidence that we'll accomplish that purpose. And then underneath those pillars, what are the very specific plans? What do we need to be working on now? What are our top priorities that have to get our attention and our resources so that we can be successful? I hope this has been a helpful tutorial for you. I hope that the Purpose Pyramid is a tool that you can use in developing sound strategies. Again, my name is Russ McGuire. I'm the founder and chief strategist of SDG Strategy. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'd be happy to talk you through any questions that you have. SDGstrategy.com is our website, and my email address is russ@sdgstrategy.com. Again, clearpurpose.media is where you can find these whiteboard tutorials and a variety of other content as we've talked about here. So please check us out. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with you, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.